All righty. Welcome everybody to today's class, Persevering Through This Market. So anybody watching this video, it is darn near the middle of March 2021, and we are in the greatest seller's market we've ever seen in the Denver metro area. And so it's time to get real about this market and a couple of different topics, a couple of different things, and how to do this. You have some options, you have some choices. And I've been working through with my coach, and I've been working through with Harry and the office and the leadership. And, we are putting up some staggering numbers in this environment. However, we also can do better. I will never, ever give any of you guys a 10 out of 10 on anything because a 10 out of 10 would mean you need to surpass me. You need to make sure that you've got everything you ever needed to know, and that you're practicing 10 out of 10 times on everything that you do. I myself will never grade myself at a 10 out of 10. So when we're going through this market here, what you got, Harry?
I just wondered if you had taken a page out of my playbook. Nobody ever gets a 10. Because if you get a 10, you're going to stop trying, right? But if you're a 9 and I tell you you're a 9, but you could be a 10, you're going to keep working at it, right? And I'm like Bruce, never gave myself a 10, because if I gave myself a 10, I'd stop learning, and I don't want to ever stop learning. I want to constantly grow. Great analogy.
Exactly. Going through this market is something we've never seen. You guys, I don't care if you know agents who've been in the business for 20, 30, 40 years, never have seen this market. Every single agent, the key that I really want you guys to know as being younger in the industry is that you are dealing with things that the other generation has never dealt with in its entirety of the market. All right. And so we have a couple choices, but we'll get into those choices in a little bit. And I want to talk to you guys more about the 10 out of 10 and what we were just talking about and how we look at our business and what we do. The reason why you will never hit a 10 out of 10 in this industry is because there are 3 script books alone in KW Connect that average 200 pages or more. I don't know about you guys, but I can never actually internalize 600 pages of things, right? That would be a 10 out of 10 as far as scripts go, right? So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to begin with the law of the rubber band. We're going to set some ideas around some things. We're going to talk first about the law of the rubber band. And does anybody know the law of the rubber band? Anybody want to tag with me? Okay. So what they did is they I think it was one of the elite colleges, they had a class and the professor sat down and had rubber bands on every single the desk. And they got like 15, 20 minutes, and they were to write down everything that the rubber band could be used for. And what they discovered and determined is that there is no such thing as a use for a rubber band unless it's stretched. A rubber band is just completely ineffective unless it's stretched. And then they started studying kind of the dynamics on just that principle and the way our mind works and then what we do. You see, I always use the analogy of when we were a kid and we want to ride a bike. We have that determination and that tenacity to get it done. But that determination and tenacity to get it done, it's because we have a will, we have a deep down thought inside that causes us to absolutely understand that failure is not an option. But what gets us there? What causes us to want to stretch? And we talk about the why, we talk about the vision and blah, 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 right? That's really, really, really important. But it's also really important to understand that you can have a vision, you can have a why, but if you don't have the capacity to understand how far you can actually stretch yourself, or in a moment where you convince yourself you're stretching yourself, but in reality, you're not doing anything different than you've already done, right? So the law of the rubber bands basically states that if you take a rubber band and you stretch it for the first time ever, you stretch it and you hold it to its taut point, and you sit there for about 5 minutes, you will be very, very, very sore tomorrow in certain muscles. All right. The rubber band itself is going to start to lose some elasticity too. But the key is when you stretch that rubber band for as long as you can, you will absolutely be sore, to the point where you might not even be able to stretch it the next day. I don't know if anybody of you guys work out and have those rubber bands. Those things are they're resistance, right? But the law of the rubber band states that if you were to start to practice, right, just stretch it halfway for 5 minutes. Do it again the next day for 5 minutes. Eventually, you'll be able to stretch that thing, no problem, no questions asked. Your muscles will be built, and everything will be there. And I know I'm doing a physical analogy, but it's the same way in our mind. It's the same way in our mind. We have to understand that when we go through an uncomfortable phase, all we're doing is stretching our rubber band. We're stretching where we want to be, and it's our decision to continue to work on that instead of just stretching it all in one fell swoop and getting sore as hell and figuring out that the next day you don't even want to get up and move your arms. We need to understand that we need to go through a little bit of the uncomfortableness to just start to grow our rubber band. My analogy that I use in most of my classes is the first time I ever had 7 deals under contract at once. I thought my head was going to explode. I thought there's no way in hell I can have another contract be put on top of me. I was working through systems, models, tools, anything I could do to help me stay afloat with my under contracts. And I thought, my gosh, I don't know how people put up. I mean, Jenny Hart in our office right now, I think she's got 18 under contract. I was seeing people do that and I'm going, how in the world? And then, I don't know, 6 months to a year later, I wake up and I've got 7 back under contract, and it wasn't as difficult. It wasn't hard. Put the 9th, 10th, 11th. So I got to my record. My record's 14 under contract. And I thought for sure 7 was my test. What it was is 7 was just simply stretching my rubber band at that moment. 7 was just something I had to start to get used to. Same thing when you're riding a bike and you want to take off your training wheels for a sec. You can ride your bike with training wheels on it, and that's hard enough when you first get started because you just got to get your motor functions down. I mean, I have to teach my daughter exactly which motion to turn those pedals. Then I have to teach her, like, when you want to go left, like, turn that thing. Don't just lean your body left, like you ain't going to do it. So I have to go and I have to stretch my daughter through the motor functions of riding a bike. Then when she gets that down, then I might take a training wheel off. And then when she gets that down, and then I'm gonna take 2 training wheels off. And then when she gets that down, I'm gonna let go of the bike. All of those progressions are practicing that rubber band. I didn't just get her on a bike and say, guess what, kid? I hope your will and determination powers you through this, because there ain't no training wheels and dad ain't holding onto this bike. I got the car ready in case we need to go to the emergency room. You ready? Right? And sometimes I feel like we get into that mindset in real estate. Sometimes I think we really need these deals. We really want to go through and we challenge ourselves to get, well, not even challenge. We get down on ourselves. We get down on ourselves when we don't have something under contract in 30 days. We get down on ourselves when we've been working on a lead generation activity for the last 8 months, but we haven't put in the script practice, like Harry was saying. All of what we do has all of those minor processes through it. And if you can't recognize those littler steps, understanding that even those little steps will pull some uncomfortableness out of you, to the point where if you start to just be a little uncomfortable, step by step, it's not like you're ripping this rubber band and holding it for an hour until your arms are going to fall off. By the time you're ready to stretch that rubber band to its fullest and wait an hour, you'll barely be sore because you've already went through the uncomfortable phases of just practicing it inch by inch each day, right? So in this market, we're talking about persevering through this market. When we get into a market like this, our minds will start to race. We'll start to go, is this the right decision we made? Is real estate going to be for us? Am I going to be able to weather this storm? Where's my bank account at? What can I do? I'm trying everything. I'm on script practice. I'm going to classes. I'm watching the training videos. I'm reaching out. I'm having one-on-ones, but I'm still in my head. I'm still up here. My bills are coming due. I don't know where to go from here. how long will this market last? Because I'm about to give up. I've tried every lead generation system, model, tool, training thing that there is out there, and I just don't know if it's for me. The reason why I just went off with all of those thoughts, you guys, is because that's how fast we can start to second guess what we're doing. The reality is what I just said was so many different points, and those points, you guys, are the times that those thoughts, it's very hard to shove those thoughts away. I'm not going to discount anybody for having them, and I'm not going to discount anybody for having them creep up when they don't want them to. But I am going to discount them if that's a thought that you just wake up with, you breathe, you believe, you go to bed at night with. It's because then what we're doing is we're not focusing on those little stretches per day. All right. The reason why I can't believe he got off here, I can because I think he's working. Patrick got off of here, and Patrick and I have been working on his rubber band for a while now.
Yeah, it's showing.
Patrick reaches out to me a lot, and we've been working on just stretching him just tiny bits at a time. And it's because I can't just say, hey, Patrick, here's a script, learn it. I'm going to call you out in scripts and go from there. We've been working on that script for a long time before I felt comfortable calling him out. But you see, the thing of it is if we can go through life and we can have all of these thoughts kind of creep up to our mind, we're using our mind space in a rough way. We're stretching the wrong rubber band, if you will. We're uncomfortable with our thoughts about where we have and what we have, and we're uncomfortable with some of the unknowns. In this market, it's too easy to start going down the path of these unknowns, these uncontrollables. I don't want my mind to have any thoughts around uncontrollables. If I can't control it, I'm at a zen. Everybody keeps asking me, what do you think about the presidential election? It's out of my freaking control. I don't care. It's out of my control. It's not worth my brain space to care. It's worth my brain space to continue to read up on it and follow what the president's doing. That's worth it, but it's not worth my brain space to have a negative conversation or a positive conversation about how the presidential candidacy worked out. Not at all. I'm going to keep up with it. I'm going to go for it, right? I'm an investor. If Biden cuts down every single thing of investing and makes buying investment properties not worth it anymore, it's beyond me to be frustrated and upset with him, because now I'm using my mind space in a negative way. That mind space that I could use being pissed off with the world, and I can't believe my dreams are crushed and I'm not going to get anywhere, and I can't, that was my retirement plan. That is the exact time that is needed in my brain to plan the next business, to plan the pivot, to plan the next career move, to plan where I'm going to go. But if I get lost in my head with it, I'm just going to go down this negative spiral, and then I'm going to train myself to always have emotion around uncontrollables. Our brains are habitual creatures. And so I'm sharing all of this with you guys because negative thoughts are the easiest thing for our brains to latch onto. The easiest thing. When your brains latch onto something, be careful, because it becomes a habit whether we like it or not sometimes. So I really challenge you guys that when you guys have thoughts running through your head, understand that where your brain is focused is not actually on the progression of things. Most of the time, our negative thoughts come from uncontrollables. The reality is no one can control this market right now. And so what we need to do is change some of those tiny thoughts into tinier thoughts about how we're stretching our rubber band as we go throughout this journey. So I want to pick on Brady for a couple seconds here. He too has been working on stretching his rubber band. And I've recognized it in a way that I think I'm ready to articulate. So let me see if I botch this. But when Brady first started with us, he called me and said, hey, I'm really kind of thinking about FSBOs. So let's have a conversation about that. So step one, he wasn't saying, hey, I'm thinking about FSBOs and I'd like to land like 3 appointments this week on FSBOs. That would be him taking his rubber band and being like, holding it, I'm going to just do this. And then once he does it and he doesn't hit 3 appointments that week or whatever he sets, He's going to be sore, quote unquote, from pulling that rubber band too far. He's going to get defeated because he didn't go through that process like the bike. To teach my daughter which way to turn her legs. Like, I never thought being a dad, I'd have to, like, some of the most elementary things I can't even fathom that I have to teach her. But man, you do, right? Like, she gets on the bike and she just sits there and she just is like, am I doing it? And I was like, what do you mean, are you doing it? No, you're not going anywhere. And then it like resonated with me. I'm like, she has no idea to move her legs. She has no clue. So I have to like push her feet down. She's like, okay, I make this move, because she's got one of those motorized things. She just thought there was a motor on this thing, right? And so we have to go through those processes. And that's what Brady did with our first conversation. We had a conversation about the FSBOs. It wasn't about how to get the most amount of appointments you can per week. It was about just how to approach. What are my options? Step one, stretch the rubber band just a little bit. Step two, what was it, Brady? Just making the damn calls. That's usually step two. Being able to pick up the phone and breathe to the point where when you're done, you're not just, needing 4 sticks of deodorant. What do you think step 3 is? What tell us about your journey, Brady, with FSBOs?
So it started exactly how you said. I was in a spot where it's like,
I'm not sure what's going on. I can't hear you. Hold on. Can anybody else hear him?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Can you hear me?
It's me, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's all you, Bruce.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I can't hear anybody. Brady, I didn't hear a word you said, and I think because I'm recording on my end, it probably didn't record it. So please start over.
So it started kind of how you said it started. I first needed to have a conversation about how to even approach it. Then I started to make the calls. And then I just started to understand that I needed to try and come from value and see how I could help the people that were in need, because they need, these people need our help in one way or another. So it was me just trying to come from value and then follow up from them at that point and just treat them like a normal lead.
Keep going, man. There's so many.
So after that, it was, then how do I continue to have these genuine conversations with these people and still bring value to them in a way that I could have a more effective conversation with them.
Yep. And what did you determine?
Getting straight to the point, like right away, was more effective than trying to kind of BS my way in. And I just used that as a way to have more effective conversations with them, because I started to realize that a lot of agents were calling them, saying they had buyers, not really giving them a straight up answer. And I just came straight from the point of like, this is what I'm trying to do. This is how I want to help you. Let me know what I can do for you. And that started to change the way I had interactions with these people in a better way, because they knew I wasn't trying to just like bullshit them. I was just straight up. I'd say, I don't necessarily have a buyer, but I might be able to find one for you. But if worst comes to worst, how long are you going to wait until you list with an agent like me so I can help you get the job done? So they just started to become more effective and more genuine over time.
So you didn't just have a conversation with me. Dang, it's bad. I'm sorry, guys. So you didn't just have a conversation with me and then get out there, find 10 FSBOs and start being like, hey, list with me today.
No.
Okay.
It was a gradual progression, because, some of the conversations I initially had were not as effective. And I started to learn okay, is there a different way to approach this so that I can make a genuine connection and also bring value to them in some way.
And are you completely upset with the amount of time it took you to get to this point?
No, not at all.
Why?
Because I know that in the future it's going to bring even better conversations and probably a listing or two at some point. It's going to help me in the future become a better business person and a better conversationalist. So
I believe that you're not upset with, I believe that that's true too. I believe that one of the big reasons why you're not upset with the amount of time it took is because you went into it knowing that there's a bunch of progression that needs to be had. Yeah. Right. You can't, if anybody played sports, I don't really care, but you can't go and be like, all right, I'm going to play basketball this season and show up for just the coaches don't start practice the week before the first game, right? They need to build you up. There's a progression. There's a time frame for that. And what they're doing is they're building your endurance, meaning they're stretching your endurance rubber band, right? And so when you can understand that training has to take place physically or mentally, then you start to give yourself some grace on the amount of time it takes you to get accomplished on something, right? Now in this market, right, we have to add a few more steps. We have to add a few more pulls on that rubber band in order to weather the storm, right? So the next thing that I want to do is I want to share with you guys an example, okay? Because the law of the rubber band has another principle to it. It's another thing that might resonate a little further with you. And it's called context versus content. Okay. Let's do some group interactions here. I've got to get off here at 10:30. I don't believe this is going to be a long class, and we've got some time for some back and forth. Can anybody try to describe the difference between content and context?
Content is what you're trying to say, and context would be kind of in the arena of how you're saying it.
Cool. I like the word arena around context. I like that. Anybody else? Can they be synonymous?
Context and content.
How so?
I don't think they can.
Okay. I don't believe that they can in any one given instance for any one given person. But I do believe that they can be synonymous in multiple ways between two people.
You mean like in a misunderstanding or in how the information's received?
Yes, misunderstanding. That is what I'm getting at. Yes. So close your eyes, don't close your eyes, but peer through the camera. I don't care. Here's what I want us all to visualize. Okay. So let's pretend that you have two glasses in your hand. Okay. Let's pretend that you have one that is basically, let's call it double or triple the size of the other one. Okay. Then you fill up the larger glass halfway with water. Okay. The glass is then half full or half empty. I don't care how you want to look. This isn't an optimism, pessimism talk, but the larger glass is half full. Okay. For the analogy, the water in the glass is the content. The glasses then are the context. Okay. So now you have a glass, which is the context that's half full of content. And you take that glass and you pour all of that water into the glass that is either half or a quarter of the size of that other glass. And now just visualize, and everybody's filled up glass water at the sink or whatever. Visualize as that water starts to raise up in that smaller glass, gets closer and closer and closer to the top. But the reality is that you can't stop. You cannot stop your other hand from continuing to pour that water into that smaller glass. You can't do it. And so as that water continues to rise, you start to feel anxiety. You know that that water is going to start to spill over the edges. that anxiety becomes real quick. Let's say it's red wine over a white carpet. That wine is about to spill over, and there's nothing in your power that you can do about it. Your other hand has 100% control, and it will pour the rest of that wine into that glass. So you have two choices. You can either move the smaller glass out of the way and have it be at a level in which you feel comfortable with, or you can keep your glass there and have that red wine start to spill over. So now visualize, and I really want this visuals to happen in your brain. Now you have a glass of red wine and it spills over. Your hand is around the glass. So what happens? Your hand gets wet. It starts to drip. You don't have another hand to go cup it underneath. It starts to drip. Now you're trying to think, okay, I got to get out of this way. I got to go and I got to make sure I get off of this white carpet. Where's the nearest hardwood surface? Where's this? Where's that? Where's the sink? Everything we're just talking about right there is called anxiety. All right. When we say something and we look at the other person, or when somebody says something to us and we look at them wide-eyed like, what the hell did they just say? What it is, you guys, is we coined the term it's over their head. It's not over their head, it's over their glass. It's that what you're trying to project onto somebody, their context has not grown big enough to hold the content that you have for them. Okay? And if you do that to people, you will create anxiety around them. So for instance, let's use this metaphor, let's continue with this metaphor, okay? So we already know that filling up, or somebody telling us something that's more advanced than if I got into a conversation with Brady about golf, my glass about golf, my context is mediocrity in comparison to Brady's, right? So what Brady and I would have to understand is that Brady and I's first conversation about golf, the first thing about our conversation is his content has to be basic enough for me to be engaged enough to grow my context. You see, his content is the only thing that will grow my context. So our first conversation, I just have to let it grow. If he pours too much content on me, my glass isn't going to grow. It's just going to overflow. And I'm going to get anxiety, and I'm not going to actually fulfill the conversation in my mind. That's why when you say something to somebody, Harry and I have to watch ourselves on this all the time. I really stink at this. I lay a lot of my content on you guys. And what it is for you is it's your context growing. So what it is most of the time when we grow our context, the very next time we talk about that subject, the other person's going to be like, well, I told you this the last time. What it is it was, you only grew context. You actually didn't fill it with the content yet. So the second conversation usually is the content. Just like when we talk to people about the market, the first time you talk to somebody about the market and then you start to talk and then you follow back up with them, they might have some of the same questions. And you're going, man, we already covered this. What am I not saying right? Just understand that you might have said it right and that you just grew their context, okay? So it's an analogy that's been resonating with me for a long time. When you guys do this example, I would really love to do this in front of you, and it works with water. When you go to pour that glass, my left hand does not like to feel that water overspill out of that smaller glass. All right. So that's what we're doing as we grow. The first time we go to do something or learn something, Sherry's on here. Sherry, I'm not gonna pick on you. Sherry, she's in that beginning phase of scripts, right? It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for everybody when they first start scripts, unless you're Grady. Grady's the only one in here. No offense to anyone else of you. Grady's the only one in here that just like, I had a mic drop moment. I was like, Jesus, this guy just has a natural way of just staying calm. I mean, Brady, you're close, but there's still times where I sense your voice. It's not wrong, right, or indifferent. what it is we're growing context. Then we got to put content in it. Then when that gets full enough, we got to grow the context again and then put more content in it. And then put, before we put more content on top, we got to grow the context again. And that's those steps, you guys. That's bringing this all back around to Brady's progression. First, let's learn about FSBO. So grow the glass. Then let's try and fill it with content, maybe real world stuff. Then hit the next phase and grow the context, fill it up with some content, grow it again. We need to understand that that's what we're doing. And we're doing it in a market in which if we don't realize where our thoughts are going and where our head is at, we're wasting time with the negative thoughts in our head. We're wasting precious and valuable time that we could be using to grow our context, to stretch our rubber band, to go that extra mile when Brady gets to a point where he goes, I'm sick of calling FSBOs and I'm done following up with these guys and building relationships. It's time to get dirty. I said it in that post the other day or yesterday with Patrick. He's getting dirty. Dirty means going right for that jugular, doing the things that other agents aren't doing. Other agents are calling FSBOs, and other agents, just like Brady knows, the thing of it is Brady, he's growing his context around FSBOs larger than anybody else. And so the only content everybody else has, Brady already knows, which means he's got a leg up. He can say things such as, hey, I'm sure there's a lot of agents calling you saying they have buyers. That's bullshit. And I'm here to list your home. So I've got some direct questions for you, because if you're a man of business who wants to save money on commissions, I'm the man that's going to get the job done. How long is it going to take before you list with an agent like myself? They're not used to that conversation because they got so many other agents calling them that when Brady answers the phone, their guard's so far down because they're like, oh, this is another agent going to ask me if I could do an open house, going to ask me if I can, have some buyers come over. And I already know what I'm going to say because I've been hearing it a bunch. And then bam, he hits them with that. Their guard doesn't even have time to go up. They're going, what? Gosh, and then Brady can get some more words in. Brady can do some more things, and it's because his context is bigger than their content or his glass is bigger than theirs. He's got more content around the subject because he learned and he went through those phases of progression. Now, I'm not saying calling FSBOs and asking for open houses is bad. Let's just put that on the record, right? The reality is that's how I did my business. I was not a jugular guy. I know the scripts to be a jugular person, but I've never dealt with this market, you guys. I have to get down and dirty myself, and it's uncomfortable for me. Don't get me wrong. I'm ever growing my context around this market right now. I used to be able to just do open houses, grab some buyer leads, maybe sell a FSBO here and there, and didn't care because I was getting so many buyer leads that could go under contract. But that's not going to work as well right now. So if you want to do it and weather the storm through that, just know that it's just going to take a time, right? So Brady, I appreciate you letting me to pick on you. But that's what I've seen you do. You've stretched your rubber band, you've grown your glass, and you've grown it to a point where other people haven't decided to grow theirs, which is why you're getting the appointments. You see, you're hitting people with stuff they've never heard before. You're hitting them with things that have to make their ears perk up and them go, damn, like he just full on said, I'm listing your home. Like that kind of upset me a little bit, but now I'm kind of curious as to why there's nobody else has called me and said that, right? Same thing with my buyers presentation. I'll never forget the time I walked into a new build. This pompous clown, I'll call him, was a preferred lender for a builder. And I was with somebody who I'm pretty humble out there. I don't really like to share with people what my transactions look like. I don't really like to share with people how many deals I do. I just don't do that. I want to explain the market. I want to do my job and I want to get going. I'm not actually an external competition guy. I'm an internal competition guy. And so we're at this new build happy hour thing, if you will. And I'm with another agent of mine, and he gets a couple beers in him, and he starts Bruce is the number 2 buyer's agent in all of Colorado for all of Keller Williams. I'm like, oh, God, here we go. And then this lender who does a large deal of volume and does all this stuff, he goes, oh man, that's awesome. You should take my card. And I just said, hey man, if you didn't feel obligated to give me your card before you knew my production, I'm not really going to feel comfortable taking your card. And because I was getting a little punchy because I was having a couple beers too. And I just don't like a lender who wants to only give me their card because of production. Like, bump that. And so he just starts rubbing me the wrong way at this point. And then he goes, well, how long is your buyer's consultation? So my buyer's consultation is 2.5 hours right now because the market's absolutely extreme. He laughs, puts his card back in his pocket and goes, yeah, that's insane. Like, you're wasting your time. And before I went into full bore Brewster teaching mode, telling him about how it's not a waste of my time and that 2 hours saves me about 20 hours out there, I just turned to him and said, yeah, it sounds like you do a lot of wasting your time. So I don't know if I can work with a lender like that. But I couldn't believe how someone's context or content around a subject in a different profession was like that. And we deal with that general public all the time. I never, ever will forget that moment. And what I realized at that moment was I started to grow my context beyond any other agent that was out there, because that lender had never heard of an agent doing a 2 to 2.5 hour buyer consultation. It's just like when somebody says, what's that phrase, right? Everything's impossible until somebody does it. Is that what it is? Something like that? Well, until something is done, the impossibility is in our brains, which means our glass isn't grown big enough. The people that choose to grow their glass around an impossibility are the ones that then can fill their glass with the content to actually make it happen, right? And the list goes on, right? The Wright Brothers, who's going to fly? The Wright Brothers did. They studied, they grew their glass. They went and stretched their rubber band. They went and took it step by step. They didn't build a freaking plane, fly it off of a building and die. They used gliders on a sandy beach. They went through and they stretched day in and day out, right? They grew their glass. Thomas Edison, Albert Einstein. I mean, we know the big ones, you guys. So here's what I'm getting at. To wrap this all around to some validity for you guys. During these months, is a vital time for you guys to grow your context. Okay. We put a lot of content out there. I don't know. Harry and I both don't have any clue if we're giving the audience. Some of you right now are growing your context. Others of you have heard this conversation from me, and now we're putting the content in. Gabriel, Zach, Jim, Chad, Brady, Ariana. Actually, most of you guys have heard this. But why are you guys still on this call? Is this still intriguing to you, right? Is this still something you needed to hear again? Most likely, if the answer is yes, it's because the first time we talked about it, all I did was grow your glass, the context. Now I'm filling it with content. Like, if you're not stretching your rubber band, if you're not going day in and day out, just going one step further, 1 inch further with that rubber band, it's going to be a very hard storm to weather. We're weathering that storm. The PC program is putting up numbers that they've never seen before. And it's not because of Harry and I. It's because you guys are choosing to grow your context. So that analogy has to ring home, okay? So let's go into a different type of analogy. So I guess those were theories. Those were, principles. Let's go into an analogy, all right? A lot of us right now are really struggling with how to get dirty. We're really struggling with how to pivot and how to shift, right? And some of us, I go in different motions every day, it seems. Some of us are willing to put in the work, but we don't know what the work is. And then some of us, we know what the work is, but we might not be willing to put it in. And so we got to stay out of our mind with the negative thoughts. We got to make sure that our mind space is shared with things that we can continue to grow our context, then put content in it. So let me ask you. I'm not even going to ask that question because we've all been out to a restaurant. Think of your favorite restaurant that you've ever been to. The one that you maybe go to most often. Maybe the one that you go to on special occasions. The one that just kind of pulls to your heart a bit. And now think about that restaurant and think about what happened when COVID hit. When COVID hit, that restaurant that just came to mind, are they still here today?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah. They pivoted and they changed and they adapted to meet us where we were.
How so?
Online ordering, outdoor seating that was safe, take and make, like lasagna kits, Sunday suppers. And then they also tied into charity. So every time you bought something, they gave to the food insecure.
Fantastic. Anybody have any restaurants that they really liked go under?
And the one I worked at.
Shoot.
You left.
Literally closed.
Why?
Oh.
Well, so it was Zolo in Boulder, but I don't think they had enough of a customer base, and I don't know if they shifted fast enough to weather the storm.
It could be a number of reasons, right? Like we'll never know the inner workings of why a business goes under, but there are only a couple of different reasons maybe, and they can all kind of be in a generalistic form, right? Any company or any restaurant that came into COVID with $1 million in reserves, still doing fine. Any company that came into COVID without any reserves, but had a business know-how and a mindset and a sense to pivot and shift, just like Ann Carlson just said, all of those different examples, they're weathering that storm right now, right? Now, we thought about the restaurant, okay? We thought about the restaurant as an entity, as a business. Okay, but behind businesses are who? The owners. Yep, it's the owners. And so I ask you guys to think deep about some of those owners. I don't know some of the owners of my favorite restaurants, but face aside, what do you think went through their mind? What do you think? How many countless nights did they stay up not sleeping? How many times did they have to shove out of their mind the negative thoughts about how people open restaurants not for the money, guys? Let's just be completely real, okay? There's not many restaurants out there that are multi-million-dollar income producing restaurants unless you're embezzling money or doing drugs out the back door. They get into it because they had a passion for it. They make some money. They make, some restaurant owners make decent money, but mark my words, they're not probably millionaires in a town like Fulco, Longmont, Loveland, even the Denver ones, you guys, even the high-end ones. They have some high, what happened there? Hello, anybody there?
Yeah, we're all here.
I'm signed out for some reason. I better be recording.
You are. It says recording.
It says recording was not converted. Son of a gun. I hope it's still recording. We'll
just do the same thing tomorrow. It's okay.
So man, that was my emotional part. That was like the climax. And then all of a sudden I got real soft in my voice and we were going to go through with this and I lost my train of thought. Ariana, don't you laugh at me. But you guys, these restaurant owners, they went through the worst.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say they went through the worst. They went through way worse than we have to go through. We only shut down for a month and we got to show houses. Yeah, with gloves and booties and, masks and stuff like that. But we got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They've had changes every week, every day, every month. They've had to make expenses on things. Do you know how expensive some of those tent tarp things are?
Mm-hmm.
You just try and rent them for a reasonable price, let alone purchase your own for something that you probably, once we get through this, will never have to use again. It's going to sit there. You probably end up starting to rent them out as just trying to recoup your cost on them to graduation parties and stuff like that. But they made decisions to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases just to stay afloat. Just so that way they know that their patrons will come back to them. So think about that. Think about that mind space, that perspective is everything. Exactly, Melissa. Think about I can't fathom, you guys. To anybody that has a restaurant passion, I love to cook. Most real estate agents make a lot more money than a restaurant owner. Mm-hmm. The owner. I hate to say it, but restaurant owners get into it because it's a passion, not for the money. They had to weather this storm. Countless nights of their American dream going straight down the toilet. Mm-hmm. Countless nights. Fights with their spouses, time away from their kids, looking at budgets, applying for PPP loans. The list goes on. I can't imagine, because here's the other, like I already said it, the kicker is their regulations changed week over week over week in some cases. I can't imagine how some of these people went through and weathered this without a sound mind, without shoving aside that negative bullshit that says the world is coming down on me. My American dream is dead. I won't be able to pay the bills. There's no way around this. Because if they're saying that, they're not reading their emails about PPP loans. If they're saying that, they're not reading up on the next guidelines that say, hey, look, you can have outdoor seating enclosed. Just get yourself a bubble. You know, if they go down that path, they're not going to persevere. And so the ones that did are the ones that were able to shove that aside, right? Now, they're not making money. They're weathering the storm, right? Business is dog eat dog, right? My reserves were not where they needed to be. When COVID hit, I was in the middle of buying a house that I already knew I had to dump in about 60 grand into. Bruce doesn't ride on extreme reserves. This has caused me to understand that I'm an idiot. I need to absolutely grow my context around business. And part of context around businesses is we don't not have reserves. Part of context around businesses is things are going to change. And that if I don't train my mind, while I'm not forced with change, my mind needs to be so adept and so sound. I need to work on my mind before change comes. So that way, when change comes, if my first reaction is negative, I've trained myself to have a better second reaction. Right? So you guys, I really want you guys to think about all the other business owners out there. The music industry. We've got a gentleman in our PC group right now. I feel confident, Anthony, that I can share this with people, and I apologize if this is something that offends you. But Anthony came to me and said, Bruce, I'm in the music industry. I'm used to making $80,000 to $100,000 a year by booking shows and events and stuff like that. I got my real estate license because I've always wanted it, and I was already on the path to getting it. And then COVID hit. And the music industry isn't really pivoting or shifting. Some of it is, right? Digital downloads, digital things, digital, that. But for somebody who books live shows, that's you have to pivot quite a bit. The company's really going to have to figure out a position for you or drop you. And so he took a pay cut working this, you guys, same amount of hours from like 80 grand down to, I don't know, like he's 15, 20 grand, something like that. And he's getting dirty right now. Anthony Cassell out of the Fort Collins office is getting dirty. He's got the fire like Ann. He's getting down and dirty. He's asking for the business. I can lead him to water, and that dude drinks.
I see his name all over like open houses. Yeah, he's getting after it.
And here's where I'm wrapping up this analogy. Okay, with the restaurants and what we're doing. When you can set aside the negative crap, you go beyond the phrase, failure is not an option. The thought alone of saying failure is not an option still has a glimmer through our mind that says we could fail. But when we want to do something so bad, when we want to be led to that water and we want to drink from a fire hose, no matter how much that drowns us, I don't want to say drown because that's kind of just weird in this situation. But when we get to that place where we can go beyond failure being an option, meaning the thought doesn't cross our mind, we'll never fail. And if we fail, we'll want to fail even more, even harder next time. You know what I mean? It's the same thing as riding your bike. The kid wants to do it that bad, you're gonna skin their knee. The kid that gets back up without even going inside to wipe it off and just starts to do it will probably be the kid that rides their bike sooner rather than the kid that went in, like myself, would go in and cry with mom and dad for a little bit, and I get my tissues and then I wipe it off and I put some peroxide on, and then I don't want to do it the rest of the day and I want to go back out tomorrow. I'm the kid that didn't ride a bike until I was like 9 or 10 years old. No joke. But the kid that just brushes it off and says, I'll deal with the blood and I'll deal with the pain and the dirt later because I'm getting this, is the person that's going to ride their bikes faster, sooner. We're going through a tough time right now, you guys. We have a couple of options. We have some options. One, my favorite, is get down and dirty. Get dirty with things. One up the competition. Any which way, shape, or form that you are lead generating, you learn that subject inside and out. You set up calls with Harry and I, you mastermind through it, okay? Because here's what I know about business and here's what I know about real estate. I share my story a lot on these, but I don't know if I told you guys like why I strove to be the #1 buyer's agent in the state of Colorado. I'm an internal competition guy, and I went external for a sec. And the reason why was because I recognized that I was doing, my buyer's presentation was a titch longer than others and a titch better than others, because I could grow in 2 hours. I could grow a buyer's context and then at the end, fill it with content to the point where saved myself thousands of hours out there, to the point where they would be talking with a friend who would say, wait, what are you guys going through? Oh, I'm buying a house too. I'm working with a guy named Bruce up in Longmont. I don't really know him from Adam and Eve, but he's been doing a great job. And then their friend says, well, gosh, we don't know if it's our agent or the market. We can't tell what's going on. You know how many buyers I stole a couple years ago from people? I didn't steal them. My buyers that I worked with felt compelled to make sure that their friends worked with me if they found out their friends were looking. They would educate them on how to get out of a contract with their agent. And next thing I know, I'd be getting a call. And it's because all I did was spend a little extra time with people. I knew that I needed to grow their context and fill it with content, but you can't do it in one fell swoop, you guys. If I have a conversation with Brady about golf, his golf knowledge is advanced. We would probably have to begin our conversation with him growing the context, then talking about some fluff for a little while. And then by the time we ended it, he could put that same exact information on top of it. But now if my glass grew, it was now the same message, but it was content this time. And then that solidifies it. That's what you guys should be doing with your people. When you guys interpret the market, understand that the first time you interpret the market with somebody, you're only growing their context. And so you're growing this big empty glass. So it's okay to reiterate what the market's doing. It's okay to pull on the heartstrings. It's okay to make sure that you reiterate things. Write this down. People need reminded far more often than they need instructed. The instruction is just to grow a content. From there, you have to fill it with content, or guess what happens to your context? It goes down. You start to, your glass will start to shrink if you can't do both at the same time, or not at the same time, but you know what I'm saying? Like thereafter, the context is grown. Anybody ever have a job? That was a dumb question. We've all had a job because we're all sitting right here. However, I used to work retail. I used to work retail, and I worked at Big Lots for a while. I was the furniture king. I slayed that. Everything I wanted to do in retail, I wanted to be the best. I used to sling couches like it was my job. People couldn't believe I used to be. You ever see those guys like put a refrigerator on their back, like those movers? And you're like, how the heck did they get there? It's just because they learned where the leverage was and they learned where that piece was. I used to be able to do the same thing with recliners. I'm a 5'8" nothing guy, and I could just pick up recliners like they were nothing and put them in the truck beds. I had to learn their computer systems, and I learned them very well. And I took a break from Big Lots for a while. I went and worked at the post office and went to college and did some things for a little while. And when I went back to Big Lots for a part-time job after my senior year of college, same system, same exact system. The things that I couldn't remember and lost were unreal. And so this is also what I'm telling you guys is as we weather this storm, understand that just like Harry said, it's 7 years into this. I'm still doing scripts with you guys. I don't want my glass to dwindle down. As you guys go and you guys excel through these different lead generation methods, you get down and dirty with yourselves. You figure out how to one up the competition. You continue to one up the competition. Okay. What we do through this storm, what we do to persevere and overcome this market right now is the same things you need to make sure your business is built on for years to come, no matter the market. And then as the market changes again, one up the competition, right? Just one up. This is where I think people feel like our industry has changed so much that this used to be the level at which we could do business and it was just fine. There's low hanging fruit to the point where now I believe that we have a mindset that says we need to level up to here in order to do the business. That's where you guys get daunted. That's where it's wrong. You're 1000% wrong. You only need to be about here. Okay. Is that analogy? Does that make sense? Quit thinking we need to beat this market and there's a magical button out there that's going to just bump us over top of the moon about what we do. Reality is we just need to do a little extra, a little different than the competition, a little more, right? When somebody says, hey, Bruce, how's the market? It's not as simple as just saying it depends on are you looking to buy or sell? That was a nice, simple thing to say 3 and 4 years ago when the market was hot and there's multiple offers in many situations. But now, if we don't articulate this market, if we don't actually explain it to a buyer, they're going to get defeated and we're going to get defeated. And it's because we're not leveling up just a touch over our competition. And that's all you got to do and you will persevere. We're doing it. I cannot believe the numbers that are coming out of this crew. It's staggering, but it also shows me that you guys enjoy it. You guys are here. You guys are ready to make sure that you guys grow your context and your content, or fill it with content, I should say. So we talked about getting dirty. That's option number one. Option number one is just take what you know and what you can do and think about it, practice it, do it day in and day out. That means in this market, I would never, ever, ever be spending an ounce of energy on designing a business card, putting together a flyer, I might put together a flyer, but I don't care how, I just going into designs, filling in some information and being done. Don't sit there and try and reinvent stuff that's already there. It's not about the flyer. It's about your message. Everybody's got flyers. Everybody has flyers. Why is yours better than the other one? Because you designed it? Nope. Your flyer's better than the other ones because of the conversations that you have. So you have choice. Get dirty. One up the competition. Quit focusing on things that aren't money-making activities. If you want to get dirty, every single thing that's on your to-do list, you cross that sucker off if you can define that it's not a money-making activity. Because if it's not a money-making activity and you still want to do it, then you can't wake up a week from now, 3 weeks from now, a month from now and be like, I don't have any business. If we're focused on non-money making activities, that's how you're going to wake up. You know what I mean? Now you have another choice. We have choices. You can weather the storm. Okay. You can work on designing your business cards. You can work on solidifying your websites. You can make sure that your touch program is so sound that when you feed that database, you know exactly that your people are taken care of. They're receiving emails from you without you clicking a button. The calls are on there quarterly. You're sending out handwritten notes. You're working on your business. Now, if you choose that path, understand that your business will come later. Understand that you're weathering the storm. Understand that you're choosing not to tackle the market. And that's okay too. You guys, I am that type of person, you guys. This is why I said, I wish I would have more reserves. My style is to weather it because I'm a long-term thinker. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. It always has, it always will. And no one has a crystal ball. We're at the #1 seller's agent that the Denver area has seen of all time. So since that has never happened before, it's physically impossible for anybody to predict how long it's actually going to last. So if you're going to weather the storm, understand that you can't put a timeline on that storm, no either. So if you're going to weather the storm and work on that sort of stuff, business cards, getting your signs, getting those types of things, understand that when you get to a place where you're done with that, maybe choose to get dirty after that. For those people in this room and listening to this recording who want to get dirty today, get dirty today. Don't be afraid, all right? You can't be afraid to get dirty. You can't, like the analogy about getting dirty, you guys, is take a $4,000 Italian leather, or not leather, but Italian suit and go jump in a muddy field and roll around and to the point where that entire suit, there's not 1 inch left that's not completely filled with mud. That's how dirty you have to get if you're choosing to get dirty. That's why Brady has to go through that jugular. If he does that, he's going to land appointments. Now, it's uncomfortable to get dirty. No one wants to jump into a $4,000 suit and go roll around in the mud. The key is that if he does that, he'll have another $4,000 to go buy 14 other suits, right? The people that want to build their business and focus on that, just weather the storm. Don't get frustrated about, don't be frustrated about not closing deals. You chose to weather the storm, right? I really didn't want this topic to go into like this double down conversation. When I first started, like whenever we went through these cycles of like, the market's hot, now it's, not, and blah, blah, blah. They would say, double down your lead generation activities. If you're calling 20 people a day, call 40 people a day. My double down is not that. My double down is making sure that I spend time focusing on how to level up, how to one up the competition, how to make sure that when I'm competing against other agents, we're going to compete a lot right now because there's few and far in between. And all of the buyers and sellers, or the sellers, know that they kind of have a choice. They know a lot of agents because everybody's calling everybody. So you're going to be competing. So if you want to level up, you better practice all of your objection handlers. If you want to compete, you better have the best presentation that everybody's ever seen. If you want to compete, you better be giving them things that say, here's the top 8 questions to ask all of the real estate agents. And you better know those questions like the back of your hand, inside and out. You better be able to deliver the answer to those questions to those people without even them asking you that, to the place where when they read it, they're like, dang, there's not one thing Brady hasn't talked about in here that we didn't feel comfortable with what he said. Either way is okay, you guys. But either way, you can't trick yourself into thinking a different outcome depending upon the choice. Brady's making a choice. A couple of you guys are making choices. I only picked on Brady because I told him I wanted him to run this class with me. And here I am completely dominating it, barely even letting him talk. Carlson, you're doing it. My gosh. I still right now, and I have that text message that you sent me last night, is unread. You didn't get a response because I pushed down on that thing to see what your message was. So that way I know for a 1000% fact, I'm not going to forget to put up some of those numbers that you're doing on that Facebook, that program. That Facebook page shows the people who are getting down and dirty. Cool, guys. Any thoughts? Any questions? Where do we have those top 8 questions? Here, I won't share it until I find it. Let me see if I can find it, and I'll put it on the Facebook page. I honestly, like, I think the one that I used to use was top 8. You can type into Google, like, top questions to ask a real estate agent when interviewing real estate agent or something like that.
Gotcha.
Yep. And you just cherry pick the ones you want, brand it to yourself. Again, don't take too much time on it. Just take what you want. Like, go into Microsoft Word, put in 8 questions, put in some Keller Williams logo if you want, just to put some color on it and be done. Quit spending 4 hours designing a flyer. I mean, if you're doing that, that's fine. That means you're weathering the storm. But if you want business, you can't be spending 4 hours on that stuff. So I'll see if I can find it and upload it to them. Any questions? Any comments?
I think like the whole family reunion thing was like a switch kind of went off for me. And I think maybe other people like you said, that you either feed into the negativity or you choose to be like, okay, like this is what's happening. Like there's nothing we can do to change it. We just have to roll with it. Like roll with it and see how you can improve on what you're already doing. And just, like you said, level up, make yourself a step better than those other people's, because it is tough, but I embrace the challenge and I'm just going to say, okay, cool. Like, let's do this. Bring it on.
It's only tough. It's only tough because it's uncomfortable to stretch a rubber band. Sorry, I think I got loud. It's only tough because it's uncomfortable to stretch a rubber band. It's uncomfortable to run 3 miles when you're not even used to running a 50-yard sprint.
Yep.
And I
Those
think,
businesses,
sorry, here it go.
no, those businesses that adapt succeed. Those businesses that don't fail. I mean, at some point, every business changes. Look what happened to Apple. They had to adapt. They had to change. They went to the phone. Just the computer wasn't going to make it for them. So every one of them either adapts, they add things to make themselves better.
And I
so whatever
think
business you're in, real estate or whatever, it's the same issue, right? So you either adapt, you weather the storms, and you move on. And Bruce made a great point. When you have these type situations, and we talked about this before, is take the time to learn those things and be really good at them. So when that opportunity comes, you're ready. I mean, you are solid and ready.
Mm-hmm. I liked the analogy with the restaurants, and I was tearing up while you said it. It is so true. And there's so much competition within the restaurant business. And there's also a lot of collaboration competition within our business. And it's really finding our niche and where do we fit in. And if you're going to be a chicken wing restaurant, be the best damn chicken wing restaurant. And don't worry about the others, and really provide service and bring value and, find your customers and bring them to you. So I thought that was a really good analogy, and that hit home for me, especially.
That's so cool that you said that, Ann, about chicken wing things. I read or listened to a podcast. Yeah, I listened to Snack Bites. There's a company who has contracted with Applebee's to basically rent their kitchen. And they've figured out a way to go into an Applebee's kitchen, because the Applebee's there's not a lot of fryers being used because their capacity's down. And so they have these kitchen spaces, and they're making chicken wings only for delivery. Mm-hmm. They don't have their own standalone place. They're in another restaurant's kitchen because it's not being utilized, paying them rent. So it's a benefit to Applebee's, benefit to these people because they don't have any startup costs besides, some reserves for rent. And they figured out, and I haven't ordered them yet. I wrote it down somewhere next. I've been trying to find it because I love some chicken wings from March Madness. But they figured out that their reviews are, oh my gosh, for chicken wings being delivered, somebody figured out how to make them be so fresh and so crispy and like just restaurant quality that any other time, any other chicken wing companies have figured out how to, you have 2 choices when you're a chicken wing company, right? Usually you you make it and you have to let it air out so it doesn't get soggy on the way to the house, and then it's a little colder in temperature for your guests. Or you smother those in some styrofoam and some different things and keep them nice and hot and piping hot. But when they get to there, they're so like, you know, the humidity was so high in that damn box that the crunch is no longer there. It's like, you know, it's like putting your boneless chicken wings in the microwave the next day. It's soggy, right? Apparently these people have figured it out. They figured out how to get it to you fast, hot, and the only thing that they sell. You can't get a side of fries. It's chicken wings. That's it. And they do it out of a restaurant that is a big chain, pretty much every town. Mm-hmm. And they rent it from them, probably for little to nothing, because to Applebee's, it's something better than nothing. Anyways, that really resonated home with me. That's leveling up the game. Mm-hmm. That's one area. That's one aspect.
And they have blinders on. They're figuring out their chicken wings. And I think that we have to do the same and go with our strengths and figure out what we're really good at and deliver it to our future clients.
Yeah. # make your chicken wing. You guys make it a great day. I'm done. See you guys.
Bye. Thank you.